The European Union is not issuing a moral warning, it is deploying an economic weapon to force Israel's hand. While Washington hesitates, Brussels is testing the limits of American leverage in great power competition by threatening cross-industry sanctions over the E1 settlement project. This isn't about peace or human rights. It is Europe attempting to unilaterally dictate a new regional alignment that bypasses U.S. strategic paralysis entirely. For decades, the relationship between Washington and Jerusalem has been viewed through a lens of unwavering historical obligation. However, recent analysis from the Center for Strategic and International Studies suggests this dynamic has fundamentally shifted. The data points to a critical turning point where specific Israeli policy blunders have transformed what was once an absolute priority into something far more precarious, a strategic liability. This shift did not happen overnight. It is rooted in patterns stretching back to 1967, the year when the steady strengthening of U.S. military and economic commitments to Israel began as a cornerstone of Cold War containment strategies against Soviet influence. Today, that same logic dictates that if an ally becomes too costly or destabilizing within complex global competition, particularly regarding extended regional deterrence against Iran, the calculus must change. The specific trigger for this new era is not a vague disagreement over diplomacy but a precise geographical flashpoint known as E1. Located in East Jerusalem, this plot of land represents more than just construction. It signifies a de facto annexation that would permanently fracture any potential two-state framework before negotiations even begin. For the European Union, tolerating such actions is no longer an option because they directly threaten regional stability and energy security corridors critical to Berlin and Paris. By focusing on E1, Brussels signals that it will no longer accept American diplomatic cover for moves that effectively end the possibility of a negotiated settlement. This forces Israel into a binary choice: continue relying on Washington's shifting political winds, or face tangible economic consequences from its largest trading partner in Europe. Quick resource note: I keep a curated set of Amazon search links in the description for books, gear, and tools relevant to this channel's topics. Some are affiliate links, so I may earn a commission at no extra cost to you. Please consider supporting the channel by using those links if you find something useful. This brings us to the mechanism of pressure itself. Unlike previous diplomatic protests which were easily ignored by Jerusalem, the current threat targets cross-industry sectors including automotive and green technology rather than just symbolic trade barriers. This marks a decisive shift from soft power rhetoric to hard-edged economic statecraft. The goal is to impose tangible costs on Israeli growth that Washington refuses to levy due to domestic political constraints. When leaders announce sanctions in this context, the headline is rarely the whole story. The question is, who designed the incentive, who cannot afford to walk away, and what option still looks rational on each side? Today we read this move as strategy rather than a morality play. The friction between Washington and Brussels here represents more than simple transatlantic disagreement. It signals a divergence in strategic calculus where Europe must act alone. Where the United States views Israel through historical bonds and moral obligations, European powers are recalculating based on Cold War-style realpolitik. If Washington cannot or will not manage the Iranian threat via Israeli stability, Europe is forced to force that management through economic coercion. They aim to secure their own energy corridors and regional security architecture without waiting for American consensus. This creates a scenario where Israel can no longer rely on U.S. diplomatic cover to absorb the cost of its settlement policies. Instead, they must now negotiate directly with Brussels or face market isolation that impacts core industrial sectors like manufacturing and exports. The stakes extend far beyond immediate trade tariffs. If Europe succeeds in forcing Israeli compliance through these economic tools alone, it marks the end of America's monopoly over Middle East security architecture. It signals a new reality where Berlin and Paris are willing to act as rival power brokers in great power competition. The region is being forced into a new alignment regardless of Washington's hesitation or desire for continuity. This is not about punishing Israel for human rights violations. It is about ensuring that no single actor can destabilize the broader European security environment without consequence. As we look at the future, this maneuver suggests a world where trade weapons are used to reshape alliances in ways diplomacy cannot. The United States may still provide military aid and diplomatic cover, but if Europe can dictate terms through market access alone, the balance of power is tilting away from Washington toward European capitals. Israel finds itself squeezed between an American ally that prioritizes domestic politics over regional stability and a European bloc willing to weaponize its economic weight for strategic gain. The result is a region where security architecture is no longer unipolar but contested by multiple powers with different incentives. The ultimate takeaway concerns the nature of modern alliances in an era of great power competition. When historical obligations clash with cold strategic interests, states will choose leverage over loyalty if the cost becomes too high. The EU's threat demonstrates that economic statecraft has replaced diplomatic patience as the primary tool for managing regional flashpoints. For Israel, this means navigating a landscape where American support is no longer an absolute guarantee, but one variable among many in a complex game of global incentives and constraints. Thanks for watching all the way to the end. I am a one-person team working hard to make each video better than the last. Subscribe if you found value. It is the best way to show support. Drop a comment with your biggest takeaway. See you in the next video.